Sagittarius, Indiana 24H, strange event at home, you leave. Return and a hidden fortune will appear. Sagittarius, if you've recently felt a quiet restlessness inside, as if something is shifting but you can't quite name it, if the familiar space around you suddenly feels strange, as though an invisible presence is watching, then listen closely. Because this isn't just a hunch. It's not imagination. It's the first sign, and it begins right where you live. Within the next 24 hours, an unusual, and possibly sacred, event will take place. You'll be pulled away, leaving your familiar home, even if only for a short while. But it's in the moment of your return that a hidden treasure will appear. Not just in the physical sense, but a piece of your soul you've been searching for. In this video, you'll discover why those vague feelings lately have been so strong. A journey that seems coincidental. A return that feels insignificant. But in truth, it will be the gateway into an entirely new chapter of your destiny. And if you let your heart stay open long enough, you'll realize it was all written ahead of time. Right where you're standing now. Stay until the end of this video. Because what you're about to hear could change the way you see yourself, and the way you walk the rest of your life's path. Dear Sagittarius, you are someone who carries the instinct to journey, not only across windswept roads, but deep within your own soul. But even travelers get lost sometimes. There are mornings when you wake up, look around the home you've lived in for years, and feel as though everything has been shuffled by an unseen hand. The chair is still in its place, the pictures on the wall still smile. But something you can't put into words, has changed. As if the soul of the space is undergoing a tremor that the body hasn't caught up with yet. That's not a sign of the end. It's the shaking that comes before rebirth. Someone once said, if everything in your life is falling apart, maybe it's because you're being rearranged the right way. I believe that, and I believe in you, Sagittarius, more than anyone else. Because you are the sign that does not fear truth. You would rather face a storm than live forever in a false sense of safety. But that doesn't mean you don't hurt. It doesn't mean you don't fall when everything you once trusted begins to fracture. And if you are in that moment now, please hear me. You are not breaking down. You are being cleansed. Just like when the Tower card appears, destruction is necessary. It doesn't arrive to ruin you. It comes to set you free. It sweeps away what no longer fits. The rotten foundations you've held onto only because they felt familiar. We often confuse stability with stagnation. Safety with suffocation. A house with a prison. Sometimes, the strange thing that happens inside your own home isn't meant to scare you. It's meant to remind you, it's time to leave. Not necessarily the location, but the outdated version of yourself. The home you built from old beliefs, relationships that no longer serve you, and habits that drained your heart. I once lived in such a space, where everything was fine, but nothing was truly alive. I remember sitting by the window, looking out, and quietly asking, is this all there is? The answer didn't come from somewhere far away. It came when I was forced to leave, because of an unexpected event. And when I returned, I realized, the place may have looked the same, but I was no longer who I used to be. Dear Sagittarius, you are standing at that threshold now. That unsettled feeling in your heart is not a flaw. It is a spiritual instinct awakening you. It's telling you that a chapter is closing, and you need to be ready to write the next one in the language of truth. Let me ask you this. Are you living a life that you're truly proud of? Is there something you're holding on to simply because you're afraid to start over? And if you knew with certainty that on the other side of your pain is your rebirth, would you dare to cross that line? If these questions leave a lump in your throat, then write this in the comments. I am ready to step into the next chapter of my life. This isn't just an affirmation, it's a commitment to your own soul. Because you deserve more than what you've been settling for. You weren't born just to survive, you were born to shine. Maybe today, everything feels out of place, like a room that's just been blown apart by a gust of wind. But remember, every major renovation begins with a little chaos. This is one of the greatest lessons for Sagittarius, the sign of expansion. To keep growing, you must dare to leave behind the old, even if it once meant everything to you. And I want you to ask yourself, what are you still holding onto that no longer nourishes you, just because you're afraid to lose it? Remember, you don't need to carry all the old baggage to move forward. Take the lesson, leave the weight. The strange event that's coming, this unexpected journey, it's not an escape. It's an invitation from the universe. You are ready to become who I created you to be. Don't forget, there is a treasure waiting for you when you return. A kind of reward that only those who walk through their fear will ever receive. And that reward isn't just financial or circumstantial. It's awakening. It's the deep realization that you are the treasure you've been searching for all along. We live in a world that glorifies achievement, but sometimes, the greatest success is to be honest with yourself. To live differently, even when the world expects you to stay the same. To break out of the beautiful cage that's kept your wings folded for far too long. That's why breakdown is not the end. It's a sacred rite of passage into a higher version of yourself. Remember, sometimes God doesn't take away what you love. He removes what no longer feeds your soul. So that you can live. Not just survive. That's faith. That's surrender. And no one understands that better than a Sagittarius, the Lightbearer in the dark. But then, after the storm, there comes a quiet. A place where everything begins to rearrange itself. As though the universe is clearing the path for you to walk forward. And there, right in the middle of the still warm pieces, a sacred reward is forming. In the next part, we'll talk about divine justice. And how something you thought was lost will return, in a way that exceeds every expectation. Are you ready, Sagittarius? If you are, come with me, into the light that's beginning to rise. There is a special moment after every storm, when the ground is still damp. The leaves still holding drops of rain that haven't yet fallen, but the sky above has already begun to clear. It's a moment you can't name, but one you can feel deeply in every cell of your body. And dear Sagittarius, if you find yourself in that moment now, know this. You haven't just made it through a disruption, you're being led into an entirely new state. A state of balance. Of blessing. And of possibilities you once thought were impossible. The universe never lets those who stay loyal to their own hearts be shortchanged. Even if you haven't seen the reward right away. Even if you've sometimes questioned whether all the sacrifice, the lonely choices, the times you said no to what was easy so you could say yes to what was right, were ever worth it. The answer is yes. And it's coming closer than you think. In astrology, when the planets move through the ninth house, the house of truth, of higher wisdom, of sacred alignment with divine justice, that's when someone like you, Sagittarius, is granted a unique kind of strength. Not the strength to fight, but the strength to receive. Because sometimes, the strongest person isn't the one charging forward. It's the one who dares to believe that even in a world full of chaos, karma remains sacred. And you've lived according to that truth. In recent days, you may have noticed small signs around you. An unexpected email. A phone call from someone you thought had forgotten you. A door that once seemed shut, quietly cracking open. That is not coincidence. That is result. When the energy of justice begins to move, it often whispers first. Not in grand gestures, but in subtle realignments. Maybe you were treated unfairly. Maybe you were excluded from something you genuinely deserved. Not because you weren't good enough, but because the timing wasn't right. But now, the time is drawing near. And when blessings come, they don't arrive quietly. They pour down like rain after drought. They ring like church bells at sunrise after a long night of storm. It's not just coming to bring you something, it's coming to restore your faith in yourself. Because what you truly need isn't the reward itself. It's the confirmation, I didn't live wrong. And you haven't lived wrong. If you're listening to this right now, then I know you're the kind of person who once chose kindness over victory, forgiveness over revenge, and walked alone rather than compromise what was right. And all of that is now being recognized. An opportunity is on its way. It may be related to your work, legal matters, finances, or an important relationship. Maybe you'll be called back for a role you were once denied. Maybe someone who didn't appreciate you will return, not to repeat the past, but to finally acknowledge your worth. But more important than anything else is this. You're stepping into a new space in life, where justice is no longer just a distant ideal, it's something you can actually touch. I want you to close your eyes for a moment and think about something you once believed was impossible. Something you dreamed of but tucked away in the drawer of your heart because you thought it wasn't meant for you. Now, allow yourself to reopen that dream. Believe one more time. Write this down. I allow good things to come to me without needing to fight for them. That's not weakness. That's faith. And Sagittarius, if anyone understands what it means to be led by faith, it's you. You may not always see the whole path, but your heart always knows the way. When your ruling planet, Jupiter, begins its forward motion, it opens paths that once felt sealed shut. And all you need to do now is walk with an open heart. Don't be surprised if you start to feel lighter, as if a weight you couldn't see has finally lifted. You might not see a bag of gold on your doorstep, but you'll see a door open. And behind that door is an opportunity holding everything you were always meant to receive. It might be justice for an old wound, a delayed payment finally released, an apology you thought would never come, or something simpler, the light returning to your eyes, trust returning to your spirit. Let me ask you, are you ready to receive your reward? Are you ready to live a life no longer built on caution, but on trust? If your answer is yes, then write this down. I welcome what is good, because I've come far enough to know I deserve it. Your comment isn't just a statement, it's a frequency, a vibration that aligns with the highest energy of the universe. Because when you speak your desire with faith, you're sending out a wave of energy into the light that's been waiting to meet you. And if this video feels like it's meant for you, share it with someone who needs to hear this today. Because maybe you are the message they've been praying to receive. And when we give light, we receive it. Because good energy never disappears, it simply transforms and returns at the perfect time. That's the law of balance. That's the lesson of this part. And it's also the foundation for what comes next in your journey, where not only your heart will begin to heal, but love will start calling your name again. If you've ever thought, I'll never be able to love like I once did, what you're about to hear may just change your mind. Because sometimes, love doesn't arrive like thunder. It comes in the quietest moment, when you are most at peace and most aware of your own worth. There are things you thought were closed forever. Relationships you once ended for good. Emotions you believed had long faded with time. But dear Sagittarius, love, no matter how deeply buried, always finds a way back when the time is right. And what's happening inside you right now isn't anxiety. It's a delicate signal from your heart, a quiet whisper that says, you are about to love again. It might be someone new. It might be someone from the past, seen with new eyes. Or it might be learning how to love yourself through the lens of forgiveness and compassion. If lately, you've felt a sting when an old song plays, or you've dreamed of someone you thought you forgot, don't rush to dismiss it as mere memory. Because the soul always knows what still needs healing. And sometimes, the universe returns an old piece, not so you can fit it back where it was, but so you can look at it with a wiser heart. Gentler. Calmer. More whole. Some people leave so that you can learn how to stand tall. Some come back, not to start over, but so you can finally say your last word, in peace. I don't know who that person is for you, maybe a lover. A friend, a family member? Or maybe it's a part of yourself from a version you've outgrown. But I do know this, in the journey of expanding your heart, Sagittarius always chooses love that comes with truth. You don't love shallowly. You don't fall into relationships just to fill a void. You love with your soul, with your ideals, with the values you'd give everything to protect. And that's why it hurts so deeply when love breaks. But it's also why you'll love again, deeper, wiser, stronger. Because you don't love just to be loved. You love to inspire. And that energy, when it's pure, will call in the right one. At the right time. I want you to remember this. Not all distance is the end. Sometimes, space is the room both people need to grow. To understand what it means to lose each other. To realize, you're not just a place they could lean on, you're a grace they should have cherished. If today, your heart softens when you think of someone, don't be afraid to admit it. Not to go back, but to honor that you once loved that beautifully. And if someone returns to your life, welcome them with clarity. No need for anger. No need for resistance. Just remember this. True love never asks you to shrink yourself. It doesn't ask you to stay quiet, to endure silently, to become less. True love is where you get to be fully yourself, and so do they. If you're in a relationship right now, and lately there's been a quiet space growing between you, maybe it's not that love has faded. Maybe both of you are just waiting for the other to step closer. Be honest. Be brave. Be the one who opens the conversation, not because you're weak, but because you're strong enough to fight for what still matters to you. And if you're single, I want you to hold this close to your heart. There is a soul out there moving toward you, someone who is healing. Just like you. And they are getting closer. Like a soft whisper from destiny. You may not have met them yet. Or maybe you did, but didn't recognize each other at the time. But they're out there, walking their own journey. And there will come a moment, when both your souls are ready. You'll know. They didn't come to complete you. They came to start a whole new chapter with you. No rush. No confusion. No guessing games. Just a quiet unfolding, if you keep your heart pure, and the door slightly open. Maybe you've built walls after the pain. And that's okay. But please, don't build them too high. Because light needs a crack to get through. And love, real love, is just like light. Soft. Silent. But when it touches you, it can warm the rest of your life. You've loved beautifully in the past. And you will love even more beautifully in the future. Because every time your heart breaks, it opens another layer of understanding. Another depth of patience. Another well of kindness. And this world needs more hearts like yours. Hearts that still feel. Hearts that don't stop loving just because they've been hurt. Hearts that choose love, even when there's no guarantee. And if a part of you is saying, I'll never believe in love again, that is the part of you most desperate to be loved again. Don't let that lie keep you from the joy that was always meant for you. Let me ask you this. If love came knocking, would you dare to open your heart? If your heart softened at the sound of a familiar voice, would you let yourself stop guarding it? If the universe sent you a new chance to love, would you step forward, or would you turn away? If you feel like these questions are speaking directly to you, then write this down. I allow my heart to heal and love again. And if you've ever believed you're no longer worthy of a pure, honest love, let this be your reminder. You are living proof that sincerity still exists. And you don't just deserve love. You deserve the right love, at the right time, in the right way. In the next part, we're not just talking about love anymore. We're talking about you, and the spiritual journey that's quietly forming deep within. A stillness is about to end. And a fateful decision is waiting for you to make it. Something inside you has been silent for too long. And now, it's beginning to stir. There are seasons in life when nothing appears to be happening on the outside. But inside, a quiet earthquake is shifting everything. No one sees it. No one hears it. But you know, deep in your chest, your soul is moving. And Sagittarius, if you're in an unusual quiet phase, if life seems to have slowed down unexpectedly, if it feels like the universe has paused you mid-path, know this. It's not failure. It's a sacred pause. A divine preparation. I used to think I was just impatient. I didn't understand why, in certain seasons of life, no matter how hard I tried, nothing moved. Doors stayed shut. Messages went unanswered. The road ahead seemed wrapped in fog. Until one day, sitting alone by the dim flicker of candlelight, I realized I wasn't being delayed. I was being held still. So I could finally see myself clearly. When you have nothing left to prove to the world, you begin to face the deepest truth within. There is no spotlight. No applause. Only you and God, whispering to your heart what you've long forgotten. You don't have to do more to be loved. You've always been enough. That is the first step of spiritual awakening. To realize you don't need to become someone else. You only need to return to who you truly are. But that return isn't as simple as people make it sound. It requires you to peel back the layers you once wore to be accepted. To sit with your fears. To touch the loneliness. To face the painful memories you tried to bury beneath work, relationships, or forced laughter. And then one day, when you're too tired to keep running, you sit down and finally let your heart say what it's been holding in for far too long. I'm tired. I don't want to be strong alone anymore. I've been there. And maybe, so have you. But do you know what's beautiful? The moment you speak your truth to yourself, the sky begins to change. You don't see the sun right away. But you feel the first warmth touch your cheek. As if the universe has been waiting for this moment. The moment you stop fighting yourself. And then, slowly, things begin to return. Not the way they were. But the way they were always meant to be. You start hearing God's whispers more clearly. In the wind through your window. In the hug of someone who loves you. In the eyes of a friend who understands you without needing an explanation. That's how you know you're awakening. You don't have to climb a mountain. You don't have to meditate for 3 hours a day. You only need to stay with your heart. Long enough to hear the truth that's never been extinguished. We live in a society that measures success by titles, wealth, and status. But the greatest success is when you look in the mirror and feel no shame. When you go to sleep and don't have to pretend you're someone else. When you stand before a challenge and don't tremble. Not because you aren't afraid, but because you know you're not alone. Faith is the most precious gift in the journey of awakening. Not blind faith, but matured faith. Faith doesn't promise to explain everything. It simply says, keep going, I am here. And when you believe that, you start to feel an invisible hand lifting you up every time you fall. A strength that cannot be explained, but cannot be denied. If you feel lost right now, know that being lost is not the same as being without direction. Sometimes, it's the universe gently pulling you away from places no longer meant for you, to lead you where you truly need to go. Don't rush back to your old map when your soul is quietly begging for a new road. If you listen closely, something within you is whispering. Begin again. This time, do it for yourself. I don't know where you stand on your path right now. Maybe you're afraid of losing someone. Maybe a dream has just ended. Maybe you're in a nameless in-between. But I do know this, you didn't end up here by accident. You're hearing these words not because of an algorithm, but because your soul is finally ready to hear the truth you've been avoiding. That you are not broken. You are not a failure. You are not worthless. You are a soul remembering who it is. And Sagittarius, bearer of light across the sky. You were born to remind others that truth is not frightening. That faith is not blindness, it is a compass. And even when the darkness surrounds you, a single spark of courage is enough to light the entire path. I want you to pause for a moment, close your eyes, and place your hand over your heart. Say this to yourself. I don't need to have all the answers, I just need to move forward with honesty. And if those words reach you, write this in the comments. I am awakening, and I'm no longer afraid of it. That statement isn't just an affirmation. It's an invitation you send to your own soul. An invitation to return to softness. To let your heart rest. To let your spirit come home. Because you're not a being searching for the light. You are the light, learning how to remember yourself. And in the next part, that light will meet tangible transformation. Where you don't just feel it. You begin to act from it. Because awakening alone is not enough. It's time to walk into the new path with courage and conscious choice. A door is opening, and on the other side is a gift you never thought you deserved. But the universe always knew. You deserve more than you think. Have you ever felt that something is waiting for you just ahead? Not a flashy prize handed out easily, but a quiet reward, wrapped in layers of challenge. A reward that only opens when you're brave enough to step toward it. Sagittarius, you are someone who seeks truth. But you might not realize that sometimes, truth hides in the simplest places. Like a familiar room, a quiet conversation, or a moment of stillness you used to rush past. Wealth doesn't always show up as money. Sometimes, it's clarity in your mind. It's a silent nod from the universe, after years of choosing what's right. It's the moment you realize, I don't need to fight anymore. What's mine has been prepared for me. I believe that true rewards always arrive after the stillness. They don't come to impress. They come to heal. And you, Sagittarius, are standing at the threshold of such a reward. In recent months, maybe you felt like you were walking through a long tunnel. No clear light. No map. Just the faint whisper from your heart saying, keep going. And you did. Even when you were tired. Even when you stopped believing in yourself. But you didn't stop walking. And because of that, you are now approaching what the universe has reserved for you. An opportunity. A doorway. A treasure you've sensed for so long, but never dared to name. It might be a new job. A new companion. An unexpected financial breakthrough. Or something simpler, a quiet sense of relief in your soul. As if you finally get to live as yourself. Without performing for the world anymore. That is true abundance. Not needing more, but needing what's right. The right values. The right purpose. The right alignment with your soul. But there's one thing you need to remember. A reward only belongs to the one brave enough to receive it. Don't let fear, familiarity, or outdated beliefs trap you in a gilded cage. A place you once mistook for safety, but was really just a waiting room for your true life to begin. Don't say, "I don't deserve this," when the universe is saying, "I choose you." Don't turn away because you think joy belongs to someone else. Because you, yes, you, are living proof. That light always finds a way to shine through the darkest spaces. I want you to admit something to yourself, right now. I am ready to receive what is good. I will no longer stand in my own way. If that resonates with you, write it in the comments. Not because I need to read it, but because you need to hear yourself say it. Clearly. Boldly. Without hesitation. The reward you are approaching? It doesn't live in the noise. It lives in the stillness you once feared. And now that you've passed through that stillness, you're about to witness what others missed. Not because they were unlucky, but because they turned back too soon. But you are not like them. You stayed. You believed. And now, you will receive. Have you ever felt that something is waiting for you just ahead? Not a bright, showy prize easily handed over, but a quiet reward, wrapped in layers of challenge. A reward that only opens to those with enough courage to walk toward it. Sagittarius, you are someone who always seeks truth. But perhaps you didn't know that truth sometimes hides in the most ordinary places. A familiar room. A small conversation. A moment of stillness you used to rush through. Wealth doesn't always show up in money. Sometimes, it's clarity in your mind. It's the universe nodding in quiet agreement. After years of you choosing what's right, it's the moment you realize, I don't have to fight anymore. What's mine has already been prepared. I believe real rewards always come after silence. They don't show up to impress. They show up to heal. And you, dear Sagittarius, you are standing at the threshold of such a reward. These past months, maybe you felt like you were walking through a long tunnel. No clear light. No map. Just the whisper of your heart telling you, keep going. And you did. Even when you were tired. Even when your faith in yourself wavered. But you didn't stop. And because of that, you are now drawing close to what the universe designed just for you. An opportunity. A doorway. A treasure you've long sensed was there, but never dared to name. It might be a new job. A new companion. An unexpected source of abundance. Or something even more sacred. That sense of freedom in your soul. When you no longer have to pretend. That is real wealth. Not more, but what is right. What aligns with your purpose. Your truth. Your soul. But please remember this. Only those who dare to say yes will ever truly receive. Don't let fear, or comfort, or past teachings keep you from what you've prayed for. Don't say, I don't deserve this, when heaven itself whispers, I made this for you. Don't turn away from joy. Because someone once convinced you it only belongs to others. Because you, yes, you, are living proof. That light always finds a way. Even through the darkest night. Say it to yourself now. I am ready to receive what is good. I will no longer stand in my own way. If that feels right, write it down. Not for me. For you. So your soul can hear you say it out loud. Without apology. Without delay. The reward you're approaching doesn't live in the chaos. It lives in the quiet you once feared. And now that you've walked through that quiet, you are about to see what others missed. Not because they were less deserving, but because they turned back too soon. But you stayed. You trusted. And now, you will receive. There is a moment in every journey when you no longer need to move fast. When you pause, look back, and for the first time, you stop blaming yourself for the stumbles. You no longer feel regret for the years that have passed. Instead, you feel gratitude. Gratitude for not giving up. Gratitude for still being here, with a heart that never stopped believing. Sagittarius, the light you once sought out in the world, is beginning to return from within you. It's no longer the dazzling, radiant light of youthful dreams. It's the light of maturity, gentle, calm, enduring. A light that no longer needs to be validated. It only needs to be lived. You've traveled many roads. Once, you thought you had to fight endlessly to prove your worth. But now, you're beginning to understand. Not every door needs to be knocked on. Some doors open only when you walk the path meant just for you. And you've started walking that path. An old chapter is closing. But not with a slam. With a breeze brushing gently across your mind. Soft, but certain. As if your soul whispers, I've learned enough. Now, it's time to live. You may not yet see what lies ahead. But you are mature enough to no longer need to see in order to believe. You've learned to walk in the dark. By intuition. By faith. By the quiet guidance of God. And now, you hear His voice more clearly than ever. Not through your ears. But through the peace in your heart each time you choose what's right. Even when no one is watching. That is spiritual maturity. That is when you realize. You no longer need to search for miracles. Because you have become part of one. I'm not saying the challenges will end here. But I believe this. You will no longer see them as enemies. You will see them as signposts. Evidence that you are on the right path. And in each trial that comes, you will no longer feel alone. Because you'll know, you are walking with light. With love. With purpose. And if there's still something in you that's afraid, forgive it. Hold that fear gently. Because it was that very fear that led you to faith. It taught you surrender. It taught you how to slow down. It taught you how to love yourself, without conditions. And today, you are ready to redefine success. True success isn't the place where people applaud you. It's the place where you can finally exhale. And smile at yourself. Without needing to earn love by being anything other than who you already are. Now, I want you to ask yourself a question. One that could change the course of your entire life. If I knew I was loved unconditionally, how would I live differently? If that question stirs something in you, write this in the comments. I am ready to step into the next chapter with light and gratitude. Write it, not for me to see, but so you can witness yourself. With reverence. With commitment. With the decision to live fully, and stop postponing your truth. You no longer need the world's permission. That permission has already been given. By your own soul. By God. By those who have been silently praying for you. Even when you had no idea who was standing beside you in spirit. And now, it's time to live as someone who has been chosen. Share this video if something in your heart felt gently stirred. Because maybe, someone else is standing where you once stood. And they need to hear this too. And you will be the outstretched hand of light. Just as light has reached you today. Thank you, dear Sagittarius. For walking all the way to the end of this journey. Thank you for the quiet way you've lived. For the goodness you still carry. For the dreams you haven't abandoned. Thank you for continuing on. And if you feel it's time to begin a new chapter, then begin it here. Begin it now. Because the most beautiful part of your story isn't in the past. It's still coming. And it carries your name.